Hi, everyone. Looks like we'll wait a few minutes for some more people to show up.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi. Hey, Mark. We're waiting for a few more people to show up before we get started.
Oh, great, thank you.
So we don't really have an agenda for today. If you have a project you'd like to look at or anything specific you want to talk about, let me know.
Okay, thanks. I had seen a couple of items mentioned about doing live testing or something. That was the one that caught my attention to come to the meeting today.
Awesome. Yeah, that's something I'm really interested in doing. If you know of a project that we can dive into and add some tests, or if you want to do something from scratch, we can do that too.
Okay. No, I don't know of a project. I'm really slow on picking up Go, so I learned about Go from attending some security conferences, and Rapid 7 and they bought a company called Command, and Command were primarily programming in Go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to check out the language then, and I actually joined the Framingham Go study group. That meetup kind of withered. I went to like 4 or 5 meetings, and then it just petered out.
Okay. Well, we'll try to get through some tests today. That's definitely something I'm interested in. We can probably do a kata. Be a good way to get into it. Let's see. It might be easier to start from scratch though. How many do we have? So we just have 3 today? That's fine. How about I share my screen and you guys can help me walk through a kata. Share. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. We don't want to do this one. Let's do a new one. Let's use Go modules. All right. What kind of thing do you want to go through? I usually like doing the Roman numerals kata or the prime numbers kata, prime factors. Let's do Roman. And then let's make a test for this. Okay. How much experience do you have with testing, Mark?
0. I mean, okay. I've done low level testing, and I kind of owe you a link to a refactoring of an Android app. That it was someone developed an Android app, and a friend of theirs helped them refactor the code and add tests to it. And so I'm in the same position. I'm with a group of guys who we program, and there's some legacy code. It's all Java and Android, and there we want to add unit tests to make sure that when we refactor the code, we don't break anything.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. There's a kata called the Gilded Rose. That's it has a bunch of legacy code that you have to add tests to and refactor. That could be something, if we have time, we can jump into. Let's start with kind of the basics of testing. And I like to use helper packages, but for now we're going to use something pretty simple. But to start off, you usually want to start off with a very base example, which is, if 1 equals 1, then you can do okay. That's always going to be true. So my IDE is going to give me some weird things, and I can just run the test like this, and that passes. And if it doesn't pass, I would get fail. So that's the most basic way you could get started. See, that said fail, and then if it was 1 equals 1, that's pass. But this isn't very helpful. You need to do something else. I think it's called t.fail. And then if it was a failure, you get it that way. But that's still, this doesn't feel right to me. So I like to use a package called assert. It's a testify package. And then you you assert that 1 equals 1. I need to add that package, which is from GitHub. There we go. And let's synchronize that. Since I'm using Go modules, it pulls it in automatically for me. And I think that's the wrong one, actually. It should be that one. This one gives me a little bit better feedback in my IDE. Now you see this test name is green. If I run for the whole package, I can change this name, basic. And then whenever I change it to be a failing test, I'll go red. And it gives me nice links to where the failure happened. But this, again, is kind of really basic and trivial. It's not very interesting. What you'll do is extract that out to something more interesting, which is, this is the expected value. And this is the actual value. I believe if you look at the definition for equal, it tells you which one's right. So it's expected, then actual, and then any additional messages if you want to have that. And then what I like to do is organize my test into given, when, then. So if I have an expected, that would go up in the given. The actual comes from the when. So if I have, if my, if the function I'm testing is add, if I want to add 2 numbers, and let me just create that method down here, A and B, and the result's going to be an integer. And this is kind of silly. You don't really need to have the, I'll leave it up there just in case. So I expect it to be 2. Let me just inline that. That seems weird to me. So when I call the method add, the actual value that came back is here, and I expect it to be 2. And the implementation is a failing one because it returns 0. And I can do a trivial one to just make it v2. And that is kind of the basic way to get started. And this would really be test 1 plus 1. And you could add another test. That would be to force me to write a good implementation, which is 1 plus 2 is 3. And I expect it to be 3. And now this one will fail. And the best way to do that is to just go ahead and implement it, right? So that's kind of a basic way of test driving it. What you're probably interested in is more realistic code. Does this help, or am I on the right track, or am I losing you?
No, this is good for me. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, some people in the Go community kind of would rather see the test, write the test like this, if if the expected is not equal to actual, then do things like, I think it's error F, expected 2 got actual. You may see it like that. And if I change this to make it fail, I think it will still show up down here. Yeah, this is just a little noisy for me. I tend to prefer the assertion package, because if you don't like it, depending on a third party, it's actually a pretty simple test. It's doing the same thing that we did. It's validating that they were the same and then failing with the message. Yeah, their version is a little bit more wild, but this is what I prefer. If we do the gilded rows, I wonder if we can get that set up. I want to do that. Since you mentioned legacy code, that's kind of a good way to see it used in like actual practice.
Okay.
Let me find it. Kata, gilded rows. I think there's a Go version. Yeah. And so the gilded rows, let me just grab all of this code, and this will be our legacy code. I think it needs to be under kata, since that's the package that I'm using. And so this is a bunch of this probably needs to be a package main. I'm not sure. This is what a typical application will look like if it's more than a few years old. You have a ton of if conditions on adding features that your stakeholders ask for, and it turns into a rat's nest of nesting, and it's usually not good. So what we can do is we can clean this up by adding tests to it. And I think there's a definition of the gilded rows. This was adapted from a Java implementation. Let me turn this off. Okay. I don't really want to go through this. It's an innkeeper who has things for sale, and I'm not going to bother going through that. We're just going to start trying to get this under test coverage, because right now we have 0% test coverage, and I think we can add some test coverage to update item. So if I create a test file for this, and I move it to the right so we can see the test and the code at the same time. So now this is, how do you start testing this? How do you start understanding what's happening? And update item, if we briefly look through it, it's been a while since I've seen this kata. Let's see, it takes an item, which is, it has a name, sell in, and a quantity. And it looks like it just mutates the item. So we can test, let's pick one of the cases. Let's see, create a test, and let's just run this test. And what I can do is I can do coverage. Let's see, run it with coverage, and we see which lines we haven't tested yet. So everything is red. We don't know anything about this. And if you're going to test legacy code, one way is to go to one of the deepest elements and try to test that that thing is working. So if I find one that's pretty interesting, if item quantity is less than 50, it will be incremented. Okay. If the item name is aged brie and it's back, let's not do that one. Less than 50. What's a good case here? Here's an easy one. If the item name is not this, then we reduce the sell in. So that's a case that we can test. I want to assert that the sell in value is decremented by 1. So if we start with 2, it'll be 1. Is it called sell in? Sell in. And then I'll create this. That's not what I want to do. Actual item. So when we, oh, it's mutating. Okay, so it doesn't return. We'll just call this item. And then when we call update item, gilded rows, we need to create this item, and this is an item. Notice in the test that the package name is kata and the test package is kata underscore test. This forces me to test through the public interface, meaning I couldn't test a private function over here, and that's generally a pretty good practice because you usually only want to test the public interface. So let's fill this struct, and this is going to be, it shouldn't be this one. So let's make it aged brie. And the sell in was 2, and we want to see that it reduces to 1 in this case to get that under coverage. Quality, are we even touching the quality here? If it's not, okay, so it won't go to this one, then it'll go to this one. Let's add quality to maybe 100 so that it goes to this section. Okay, let's see what happens here. Unexported. Ah, okay. We may need to get out of this. Since this is legacy code, it's not following the best practices. We can get rid of this package name spacing. And now we've got, it needs to be a pointer to an item. Okay. So let's see what this test does. And let's run it with coverage. That passed, and it looks like we hit this line right here. So that's under coverage. We know that whenever something is not this sulfurous hand of Ragnaros, then the cell in goes, it is reduced from 2 to 1. Okay. Now what's the next thing that we can do? If the cell in, I'm not sure what that means. Is there any explanation of what cell in? Some type of sell by date maybe? Let's see. How are we doing, Mark? Is this good?
Yeah, this is good. Thank you.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not going on a weird tangent.
No, I'm trying to think how I could apply it to some other stuff.
Yeah.
So this is cool. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this is often what you'll see is if you don't have test coverage, you have to like really dive in and get it under coverage, and then you can refactor it, because that's the goal of this kata, is to clean up this code using tests. And this is really challenging because like it's really difficult to understand what this code is doing. But we'll keep moving on unless you guys have a better alternative. So if the item, if selling is less than 0, let's try that one. I want to switch to running the whole package so I can add more tests. And I think the other ones are going to break because we left that in a bad state. Let's just get rid of that. Okay. So we're going to go back to the gilded rows. We've got our one test passing. This is cell in reduces by 1. Okay. So it must be some type of, this update item must be some type of iteration tick. Like every day something happens and the item must be sold. So what happens whenever it's less than 0? This probably means the quality is going to start going down. Okay, I'm starting to understand what this kata is doing again. If the item name is not aged brie, this means when it's aged brie and the quality is less than 50. Oh, so cheese gets better if the sell-in date is beyond its expiration? Is that right?
It looks like it. And then you wait for it to turn into Stilton.
Right.
Blue cheese.
So brie. So the first test we wrote was brie cell in reduces by 1. And the next one's going to be brie quality goes up after expiration. I think that's what that is. So the sell-in is 0. It's going to decrement, and then whenever that sell-in is less than 0, which it would be -1, and the quality was previously less than 50, so it looks like it has an upper limit of how good it can be. So let's say 40. We expect the quality to be 41. And okay, let's run that. First, let's see if it passes, and then we'll run the coverage. It does not pass. It actually went to 42. That's interesting. How did the quality go up by 2? Well, let's step through it. Let's see what's actually happening. Let's run just this test, and let's just debug it. But first, I want to set a breakpoint. Sometimes you have to, I usually don't like the debugger, but sometimes you have to step in to see what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
So where we have aged brie, okay, so it's not going to do that one. Okay, quality is less than 50, so it looks like we got in here. Oh. Where did I go?
It bumped.
Yeah, okay, we'll start over. Let's do it again. Debug this one. All right.
It bumped the quality because it was less than 50, so the quality went up by 1.
Yep. I'm losing where the line is going. It's like it finished. Oh, I just can't see it. It's on line 45 because of the red. It's not showing it very well. So you're right. The quality went up by 1 here. and then the cell-in drops to -1. We can probably add a test case for that. We expect the cell-in to be -1. And then the quality is going to be 42 because it increments in this case. And then there's a special case for cheese that I probably need to turn the coverage off. How do I do that? Tools. It's like a hide coverage. Maybe I just do that. It'll get rid of the coverage. No. It's really hard to follow if this is on. Oh, there it is. Hide coverage. Okay, let's try this again. It's just hard for me to follow if I don't have that line. Okay, so quality is less than 50. Then we decrement the quality, and then it was not this backstage pass. Oh, right, we increment quality, and then it's not this. I'm not sure what sulfurous is. The cell-in reduces by 1. If it's less than 0, which it is, -1. It's not. It is aged brie, so we go to this else condition. If the quality is less than 50, then we increase the quality because it's cheese and it gets better over time, but up to a certain point apparently. Okay. So brie quality goes up after expiration. It'd be nice if the code said these words instead of all of these if conditions. That's what we're trying to get to. Okay. We don't need to debug on that one anymore. We figured it out. It actually, quality went up by 2. It looks like everything quality goes up by 1. I wonder if this one goes up. Brie cell-in reduces by 1. Let's just move on. Let's see what the coverage is now. Okay, so we got this condition covered. We got this condition covered. What else can we do? If it's not aged brie and it's not backstage pass, and it's not this sulfurous hands of Ragnar's, then the quality goes down by 1. Let's do, it looks like if it's one of these 3 that they have, it's not this one. The quality goes down by 1. Okay. So product quality reduces by 1. And then any product. So it shouldn't match anything for the name. The cell-in, doesn't matter what the cell-in is, but the quality needs to be greater than 1. So let's make the quality be, I don't know, 5. And then the quality should be reduced by 1. So we think it's going to be 4. And the cell-in will probably be reduced as well. Let's make it 3, and this will be, what, probably 2? Is that what we expect? Okay, that passed. Let's see what coverage we got this time. Quality is greater than, oh, you need to run the whole package with coverage. Replace. Okay, so we got this one under coverage now. What's next? We're on time. That was about half an hour. How is this working? Do we want to keep going down this path, or do you want to do something different?
I'm happy to go down this path. Can I ask one type of question?
Sure.
I went to a meetup, and the person gave a presentation on mutation testing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever come across that within Go? Have you ever done that?
I do it manually. I've never done like an automated system changes your production code and see if your tests pass. You can do that with, so like that would be a mutation test, and this should fail because we had a test covering this path and we just broke it. So if that's what you mean, I've done that, but I've never used any type of automated chaos monkey type.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. I think we can do one more little depth here. If make actually, let's start from the top. And how do we get here? If it's not aged brie, so if it is aged brie, and actually let's do backstage pass. What is this backstage pass thing? If the sell-in is less than 11 and the quality is less than 50, the quality goes up. So if it's rare and it's, so if concert is low, actually this means if time is running out, the quality of it goes up. Okay, so concert demand goes up close to start time. I'm not sure. And then we expect the quality to go up by 1. So if the quality starts at 5, that'll make it go to 6. Make it, what did I have here? That's the name. Let's just sit this right here and grab an item. No, let's just do this. So we have a backstage pass and the sell-in is less than 11, so say 10. And the quality is less than 50. Let's give it 40. We expect the quality to go up by 1. So let's go 41. So we expect that to happen. Oh, that failed. Actual was 40. Why did that happen? Quality is less than 50. Quality increased. And then if it's backstage pass and the sell-in is less than 11 and the quality is less than 50, it should go up. So this really should have been 42. Why was it only 40? Let's debug it. Uh-oh. Did it not get to that point? I'm confused. Oh, I didn't call update item. Update item. And this really should be in the given section. So give it an item. All these are like that. Give it an item. When you call update item, then you expect this other thing. Okay. Let's run the coverage again. Now it passed. That's what we expected in originally because quality is 40. It goes up by 1. Let's just step through it. I think that helps me understand it a little bit better too. Debug. So we're dealing with this test case of a backstage pass concert. Okay. The quality is less than, yep, it is less than 50. We're going to increment the quality so that 40 to go to 41. Yes, it is a backstage pass. Sell-in is less than 11. The quality is less than 50. That's right. And now we're incrementing. Okay. That works for me. If the sell-in is less than 6, what is this other case? It looks like this is duplicated logic. Oh, it goes up by 2 if it's less than 6. Okay. Let's take this test. Concert demand goes up by 2, closer to start time. So when the sell-in is 5 and the quality is 40, it would go to 43. Let's see what that one looks like. Let me stop the debugger and rerun with coverage. So this should go green. Oh, it did not, because I didn't run all the tests. I only ran the specific one. Yes, replace. Now this goes green. Okay, so we got this thing mostly covered. Man, we're really close. I kind of want to get this all the way through now. Because we can completely rewrite this on the left once it's under coverage. Let's do that. If it's not aged brie and it's not backstage pass, so Which one is that? Kind of any product would do. Let's copy that one. And this is going to be test product. Quality goes down, reduces by 1. If not sulfurous. That's really strange. I think this is a specific rule for sulfurous, not for any product. Because it looks like in this case, the quality does not decrease. It's not bad. This is really bad code. Product quality, if not sulfurous. Okay. So sell-in is less than 1, less than 0. So -1. Actually, we can do 0. Let's make sure we get there. If it's not aged brie, so this is a product that is beyond its expiration. It's not a concert ticket. The quality is greater than 0, and it's not this sulfurous. The quality will go down by 1. So it should be 4, and the sell-in should remain, it might be decremented. I'm not sure. Let's see what happens whenever we decrement it. So this is running all the tests. And the quality was 3, not 4. So it got decremented twice. Right, because of the default, if the quality is less than 50, everything decrements by 1. And then in this special case, if it's not this sulfurous, it decrements by 2. Okay. Now we've got coverage for that section. And then the last one is this, whenever it is sulfurous, hand of that, the quality.
No, next level.
Oh, right. When it is a backstage pass, the quality goes to item quality minus item quality. Does that zero it out?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that one. Test concert ticket quality goes to, oh, I see, because it's past its expiration. It already happened, so the value is nothing. So that really should have just been 0. That's okay. We can do that. Backstage pass. Oops. If it's the concert, let's see. Concert ticket quality goes to 0 when passed. Okay, so quality was at something 5, and then it goes to 0. And the sell-in, I guess, would decrement by 1 as well. Okay, well, we got it completely under code coverage. This update item, I think we can start to refactor it. That's going to be the most fun part. We don't have to try to understand. Now we should be able to read the test and make sense of it. And it looks like every one of these, the quality reduces by 1 each time. Let's verify real quick with this one. Quality should go to 99. Nope. Actual was 100. So brie, the quality does not go down because it's the cheese. Okay, so that's one case. I feel like the concert ticket is the most interesting one to start writing code for. Where's the concert? So the demand goes up close to start time. Okay, let's try to do some gating here. If the item name, let's see, maybe we do it this way. If it's a backstage pass, goes up close to start time. Where do you think we should start? How do we make this code understandable for the next person? Because right now it's in a terrible place.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let's do this. Start way up here. If it's a concert, we'll do something special, and we'll say if item dot quality is less than 6, quality, oh, it increases. Okay. So, but this is only the case if it's less than 50. If item quality is less than 6, actually, instead of trying to change the structure just now, let's do some simple things that can make this easier to read. So we can do that, and we can do that, and then we can do that reduces the quality. Okay. This reduces the cell in, and this decrements the quality, and this increments the quality. And this one sets it to 0. Okay, that I can wrap my head around those simple changes. And here's one that stands out to me is if it's a backstage pass and the cell in,
If it's not.
right, if it's a backstage pass and item dot cell in is less than 0, so it's expired, then item dot quality equals 0. So that's something that we can do and completely remove this section.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't need that. If it is backstage pass, okay, so we got rid of that if. Uh-oh, we were failing. Let's undo. Did that not work? Okay, that didn't work. Let's just comment it out real quick. Why didn't that work? If cell in is less than 0 and quality is greater than 0. Okay, so the quality needs to be, and item dot quality is greater than 0. Set it to 0. Nope, that didn't do it. Which one failed? Product quality reduces by 1 if not sulfurous. Oh, it needs to be. Okay. Okay. So this one, actually, the quality doesn't matter. It's going to go to 0 if the sell-in is, if it's a past concert ticket. Okay. So now we can remove that. Sorry about that. That was really confusing. And let's get rid of that. So that should still be passing. This is tough. If it's not backstage pass, that means it is a backstage pass. Can I just remove one thing at a time? Oh, it's because the quality is being incremented somewhere else. So maybe we do that. And that fails. Why did that fail? Because the sell-in should have been -2. It was -1. So every time through this loop, the item dot sell-in should be reduced. And there's probably some special cases where that doesn't happen, but let's just see. And now that broke something else. Breeze sell-in reduces by 1. Where are we calling sell-in reduces by 1? If it's not, so the only time it doesn't reduce by 1 is if it's this thing right here. So let's do that. Let's bring that up here. If it's not that thing, reduce sell-in by -1. Where else are we doing? That's the only place? Okay, that got us to where we needed to go. So we're doing some type of gating. Do we need to have this return? I think we need it. Nope, we don't need to return anymore. Okay, that's a little better. Now, I think we're getting closer. And this is really a test for this sulfurous. The quality goes down. It can never go negative. It can never go below 0. So if it is sulfurous, Actually, let's just make a special case for it. If it is for sulfurous, we can probably combine it later, but for now, let's get it. If it is sulfurous, the quality does not decrease. How do we get this one? Maybe we just stick it in here. If item.quality is greater than 0, we reduce the quality. If it's not sulfurous, we probably should comment this out. No, that broke this test. Brie sell-in reduces by 1. So if it's not Brie and it's not this, okay, so that's not going to work. Let's undo that. Where were we? Where it was working? Right here? Okay, so we're getting closer. What else can we remove? I don't know how to get to this one. If item name is not Brie, so just any product, the quality goes down. If it's not Brie, otherwise the quality goes up. I feel like there's rules specific. There's general rules for any product, and then there's specific rules for something like cheese, and there's specific rules for something like Backstage Pass. I wonder if we just did that. If we say, here's rules for Brie, and then here's rules for Backstage Pass. Starting to feel like there's a way to group the logic specific to the product. Is this still passing? So if it's not that, and then here's the rules for concert, here's the rules for cheese.
You got to change it to equals.
Good catch. So what are we going to do with cheese? Cheese, the quality, we can read over here. What happens with this? That reduces by 1, yeah. Quality goes up after expiration. So what was the case for after expiration? Item dot sell-in is less than, so if it's expired, we can do, that was probably this one. If the quality is less than 50, increment the quality. So if it's expired and the quality is less than 50, increment it. And then we can get rid of this one for the cheese. Okay, so now we can kill this entire section. If it's not aged breed, that's everything. Okay. Oh, I broke something. Undo. It's not aged. So this is important that it can't be aged brie. Okay, so these are rules specific to
And off.
yeah. If item name is not this, and quality is that, and it's not, so any other product, the quality goes down. Yeah, so I feel like we have these 3 different concepts. One is a product, and then it has its own way to handle its quality. Everything's sell-in reduces, except for this thing, which apparently does not have an expiration. I feel like we need to create some objects to make this a little bit more readable, but we're getting closer. Like we've broken up this complexity down a little bit. These are the expired. Okay. Yeah, it would have been nice to make methods on the item. So this is what I'll typically do. If item is sell-in is less than 0, how often are we saying that? It's in 3 places. What I'll do is I'll go to this item. Oops. And is expired. It returns a bool. If should return I dot sell in less than 0. And that can make this a lot easier to understand. Okay. Okay, so if it's expired, I don't know if we have time to get through the rest of this. I want to. It's certainly challenging. Getting closer to a better state. It's probably going to take more than half an hour to finish this one up. How about we spend the rest of this to kind of talk about what you got from this and what was missed. What could we have done better? So we have Michael joined. What do you think, Mark? Was that helpful?
Yeah, that was helpful.
Because we kind of covered debugging in unit tests, code coverage in unit tests, some little bit how to test drive using a third-party package for assertions versus doing it without dependencies, which I think there's valid reasons for both. And
yeah, that part, because I'm not that. Because I feel like I'm not imposter syndrome. My level of expertise with Go is pretty low, so you kind of lost me when you were talking about the package and the kata under test.
Mm-hmm.
So could you explain that again?
Sure. Yeah, I kind of glossed over a little bit. The package isn't named very well because I just called it kata, and it was a way to get started. Really, this would be the package would probably be Gilded Rose, or not Gilded Rose, but because it's not in the same, here's a better organization. So if it was in a package called Gilded Rose, and we move these two things in there. So think of this package directory as a package all in itself. And I'm only going to have these two files up. And this one's called Gilded Rose. Let's get rid of the code coverage because it's annoying. Okay. This Gilded Rose package, this Gilded Rose file is in this package. And it has some public methods. Because it's uppercase, that makes it public. And if we had a function called add two numbers and returned an int, and it was return a plus b. And in the test, since I'm in the Gilded Rose package, right, so both of them are in the same package,
Mm-hmm.
I can access add. So I could write a test, add, and then assert equal t2 add 1 1. Let's make this a little bit easier to read. Result. So if I add 1 and 1, I should get 2. And if I run that test, that's true. Now, this is generally not the greatest idea because now you're peeking into private methods. Because this has a lowercase a, this is a private method. One way to avoid doing that is to force your test package to not be in the same
Okay.
to be in a different scope, and that means I can't access these things unless I explicitly request them. So if I wanted to test add, I couldn't. I'd have to have some other method that uses add or change the scope of add to be an uppercase A and then call gilded rose.add in that way. The reason we didn't go this path was because this item has unexported values. Now, a good way to do that would be to just change them. But before I do that, I want to I could just show you really quickly what you can do. You just change that to name, do a refactoring so I get them all. Name, cell in, and quality. So now I can access all those things in my test, and then you would do rows.update item. Oh, did I misspell that? and now this test would work. I think the other ones are probably broken because they're not using it. But that's what I was getting at, was have your test be in a different package. Underscore test is a good pattern to use. And then just test through the public methods and forget about the private ones. So if you have add over here, you don't need a test for that. If it has functionality, it should be exposed through the public interface.
Thank you. That's much clearer.
Awesome. And that's just my opinion. There are other opinions on it. Sometimes you do need to dive in the weeds and test a private package, and those are special cases. They kind of are exceptions that prove the rule. You can get into a really dirty place if you start testing all the privates of your classes, or not classes, but of your methods. And
yeah.
And you mentioned being kind of new to Go and to testing. I feel like Go's a pretty easy language to learn. Like easy as in less friction, less moving parts, less things to keep in your head at one time, compared to a language like Scala or Haskell, even if you want to go that far. But yeah, I don't feel too intimidated because you can get into it. Testing is a completely different skill than programming. It has its own patterns, just like design patterns if you're writing production code. So a lot of people get frustrated with testing the first time they try it because they don't see the value initially, and it's difficult because you have to you have to spend a lot of time with it to get comfortable with it. So if you have any more questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, we need to cut this off in about a couple of minutes for the next group to use this channel or this Zoom channel.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. It was like having a private one-on-one lesson.
Sure. Yeah, no problem, Mark. That was fun for me. The Gilded Rose is pretty challenging. It'd be nice if I could have got it done in the short time, but I think you got the gist of what it's like to work with, because this is what it's like to work with legacy code. It's trying to understand it is 90% of the problem. And then once you have all the tests, you can safely start changing it. And that's the good place to be, because if you've ever worked with a legacy system and you don't have those tests, making those changes are terrifying and you don't want to do it. But like a light bulb went off once the tests were all green. I had freedom to just play around with it and know that it will still work. So that's what I like to do. That's the dopamine rush that I get, is having that green test passing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't take any more of your time. That was fun. We'll do it again next week. I'm not sure what the agenda will be, but check out the Slack channel and hopefully we'll get something that's interesting to everyone. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye.